So Monday morning, you do a pipeline review and you've got 4 or 5 deals that look really close, and you get the just waiting on sign off. Let me come back to you. The candidate's verbally accepted. Everything looks good, and you're going right. This is going to be a great week. Friday comes, nothing's landed. One client's gone quiet. One client's said they've delayed it due to headcount freeze. One candidate's taken a counter offer, and then one role suddenly on hold. And if you're honest, it's not the first week that's happened. And that's the bit that most founders ignore, because the problem usually isn't the market, and it's not always effort either. So most of the time, your pipeline is full of things that were reported but not qualified. And there's a massive difference between the two. And this is one of the biggest problems I see in recruitment businesses today. Nothing's actually defined what qualifies a deal to sit where it sits. So over time, the pipeline actually is just a reflection of reality. And you hear it constantly in review meeting. Oh, he's close to what? She's warm means nothing, right? Based on exactly, I've got a feeling that this one's going to get over the line. A feeling isn't a pipeline stage, and that is more hope. And look, I don't think consultants are lying, and that's important. But I think it's because most recruiters genuinely believe that deals are live. The issue is you've never really defined what pipeline and forecast actually means. So deals enter the pipelines, they sit there too long, and everyone starts confusing movement with momentum. And that's when forecasts become dangerous. So because founders start making real decisions on forecasts, that's hiring people, increased overheads. It's putting yourself in a position where you're making decisions based on deals that are never going to land. And you think your cash flow is covered. You think the month is going to be the best month in the last 3 months. But the month misses and everyone acts surprised. But if you actually look underneath properly, half the pipeline was built on optimism and really vague feelings and language. So it wasn't built on evidence. So that's what I always say. Most recruitment pipelines aren't forecasts, they're confident exercises. The downstream effect of doing it that way is a huge issue, because once a business loses trust of its own numbers, everything then becomes reactive. And that's where things just become more dangerous, because the pipeline problem doesn't stay inside the CRM, it leaks into the rest of the business. So I see recruitment businesses billing decent money. Everyone's busy, revenue's coming in, jobs on, placements happening, but somehow there's never as much left over towards the end of the month. Margins get squeezed, cash feels tighter than expected, stress levels still high despite good months, right? But why? Because activity, it masks structural issues in your business. You're still carrying clients that you shouldn't. You're working with clients with low fees, constant revisions, poor commitment, late payments. They're the ones that create movement, but they don't create the right movement in a good business. And because the pipeline looks healthy, nobody stops to question it. So same with costs, extra tools, extra hires, extra submissions, which I call extra noise. It's individually, none of it's going to kill you, but collectively, it can really change the economics of your business massively. So underneath that, there's the same issue. There's no definition of a qualified deal, no definition of a good client, no definition of what a healthy margin actually looks like. So founders end up running a business based on instinct. And look, I think most salespeople work on instinct to a certain point, but that has a ceiling as you're about to scale. That's why some businesses can still bring strong numbers, but they still feel fragile underneath. And you want to put yourself in a position where the business is not running on submission. So recruitment founders, we're naturally always optimistic, glass half full. I suppose you have to be. But optimism without structure is super dangerous, because eventually reality catches up with the story you've been telling yourself about the pipeline. Now, the good news is that it's actually fixable, and it's fixable fairly quickly. So I worked with a tech permanent recruiter, good reputation, solid niche, decent team, and they had good people. But the founder just kept saying the pipeline just keeps disappointing. were not quite hitting the number that we think we're going to hit. And deals keep slipping, revenue never quite landing. And initially they thought, right, like most, we need more BD, we need leads, more jobs. That's a classic reaction. And because when we look properly, the issue wasn't actually activity, it was the qualification. Deals were being added way too early in the process. And the stage 2, stage 3 were basically meant to be like, we've had a good conversation. That's it. So we rebuilt the stages properly. We confirmed what a live role is, name of the hiring manager, confirmed the process and time frame. We looked at qualified candidates and how we submitted them to the client. The stage 3 was the interview booked with a confirmed date, just simple. But here's the key. We stopped using vague labels and started using a criteria, not what people hoped was true, but what was actually confirmed. Then we attach clear next action to every deal. Well, we'll follow up next week, a specific action, specific person with a specific date. And within about 8 weeks, forecast accuracy tightened. Not perfect, it was within 10%. And the reality is, recruitment is just not perfect. So don't underestimate the significant marginal changes you can make by making marginal change. And suddenly, the founder trusted the number. Hiring decisions improved, cash flow improves, pressure reduces, and the business feels calmer because he stopped that getting emotionally dragged in by deals that in reality were never real to begin with. And honestly, that Sunday evening feeling for founders and leaders checking the CRM, mentally counting the deals, trying to convince themselves this is the week that's going to get their month back on track. So making those marginal changes, if your pipeline review feels more motivation session than an actual forecast, that's most probably the issue. And it's not effort, it's not necessarily market conditions, it's just a lack of qualification discipline inside the business. Because if it's defined on what qualified is, that means you're going to get consistency across the business. And it means you're going to be able to trust the number. It will bring you clarity around definitions, standards, criteria, operating rhythm. That's it. So if any of this sounds familiar and you want to understand what's happening within your pipeline, we'll break down what's real, what's inflated, where revenue is genuinely exposed, and where you can fix that. Just message me audit and let's set up a call. See you soon.